Good morning, everyone. We're going to be we're going to be talking about two chapters here: 1 Samuel 26 and 127, or 1 Samuel 26 and 1 Samuel 27. This follows after David has just dealt with Nabal and has married Abigail. Um, and we find David again is fleeing from Saul. Right now, he finds himself in um, the desert of Ziph, where David has been spending some time. And Saul gathers up 3,000 men of the Israelite army and goes to find David in the wilderness. Um, Saul arrives, and David sends some men to do some scouting to figure out exactly what they're up to. He finds the camp very easily, as it's a large group of people, and then he waits. David is, of course, a tactical master. He understands what he should do and how he should do it. And he knows that with a force of 600 men, he doesn't really have an opportunity to beat 3,000 men. It would be very, very unlikely for him to win such a battle. So, what he instead plans on doing is he is going to sneak into the camp and sort of decide from there what he's going to do. So he gathers his men, he asks who would like to help him, and Abishai volunteers. So David and Abishai, after overlooking the camp and getting some scouting reports, actually makes their way into the Israelite army camp through all of the men and ends up at the king's tent. The king's tent would be slightly more fashionable and well put together than the other tents, and he is able to sneak through all these areas because the Lord has given everyone a very, very deep sleep. So him and Abishai eventually sneak into the king's tent, and there in the king's tent they find Abner, who is the second in command of Saul's army, as well as Saul sleeping. And what they devise to do is Abishai says, "Well, this is an opportunity for you to take Saul's life. He's delivered you. The Lord has delivered Saul into your hands. You should take it." And this is similar to what happened in the cave with David a few lessons ago, when David realizes, "This is not my job. I'm not going to kill the Lord's anointed. But what I will do is I will show him that I could have killed him again to convince him to leave me alone." So the two of them decide that they will take instead the spear and water jug that is right at the king's head, to indicate that they were able to sneak into his tent without causing him any harm. So the two of them grab that and they go back to their hilltop, and they call out to the king. They wake up the king, and Abner calls out to them, who's speaking to the king, and David says, "I, your servant, again, David. Again, I had the opportunity." I'm sorry, it's very not very. There you are. I had the opportunity again to kill you, and I chose not to. That's because I don't want to kill you, and I don't think we need to be in this situation right now. I have not done anything wrong to you. I've only done what is best for you, and these men have done a poor job protecting you, and I want this to be over. You need to stop hunting me like you do hunt a partridge or some sort of animal in the mountains. And Saul again repents from his decision. He says, "David, I've sinned. I'm sorry. I have acted like a fool, and you are righteous, and whatever you do will be blessed. And you will eventually be triumphant." And David gives back the spear and water jug, but still doesn't take Saul on his word, which I think is wise because he's had many opportunities to give up. And him and his men flee to the town of Gath. Gath is somewhere where we've talked about this place before, actually. Gath is right now being run by a man, or the king of Gath, which is Achish. This is where David left some of his family after they had visited him in the caves with the king of Gath. The king of Gath is a part of the Philistine five sort of the 5 counselors of Philistia, which are 5 sort of independent city-states. And so what happens is David essentially allows himself to be employed, in a sense, by the king. And he is given a smaller town called Ziklag, where him and his men are able to settle down. And from Ziklag, David performs a whole bunch of sort of military operations. So what David does, and this is more evidence to the fact that David has a lot of blood on his hands. He chooses to continue raiding. And what he does is he goes to all these different towns. He attacks the Gezerites and Amalekites and Girzites. And every single time he goes there, he will tell the king, I've gone and attacked an Israelite town, and I've put them to death, and I've taken the plunder and I've returned it to you. What he's actually doing is he's going to these different towns like Gezerites and Amalekites and Girzites. He's killing every single person in the town, men, women, children, every single person, taking the plunder, bringing it back to Achish, saying this is from an Israelite town, and then just rinse and repeats it with all these different places. So what he's essentially trying to do is he's trying to convince the king of Achish that he's on his side, and he doesn't need to be worried, and that David's actually completely betrayed his Israelite brethren. Now, that's not actually true. David doesn't attack any Israelites during this time. And the method he does to keep himself secret during this is killing every single man, woman, and child in every town. And this is just the way David acts. It in a sense, it's very shrewd. And it causes the king to trust David. And David's able to stay there for a year and 4 months while he's sort of on the run from Saul. But just the amount of bloodshed that's caused at David's hand is just... It's mounting. It's becoming more and more and more. David is, some people could describe David as a very violent person, given his reaction to Nabal, given what he's doing now. And I think there's lots of evidence that supports that. So from here, David's going to be putting himself in a position where he can return to Israel if need be, but also he's sort of kept safe from the current plans of Saul. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you on Monday with another Bible lesson.